The movie opens with a young man named Bobby, coming to a lake for fishing. Suddenly, he senses something around him. He moves forward to investigate it, but stumbles and falls near a human skull, lying in front of him. Soon after, he spots a werewolf, dashing towards him, and shortly after, the werewolf kills Bobby, ending his life, while the moon shines in the night sky. Now, the scene shifts to an ex-US soldier, Ryan Connor, who is having a nightmare at this time, and shortly after, he wakes up. Actually, something very dreadful happened to him during his military service, and now, he has turned into a detective. He takes a shower to ease himself. Ryan has to take his medicines regularly to keep himself calm. Now, we see a gorgeous woman named Maggie Talbot, looking at a picture of her father. One day, Maggie's parents went to the forest to hunt a werewolf, who was massacring people in the town, but they never returned from the woods. Even today, Maggie wants to know what really happened to her parents. At the police station, Ryan and Chief Galligan look at the pictures of the people who have gone missing after going into the nearby forest. Later, the chief informs Connor that he got a phone call from Sarah Simmons, Bobby's wife, and she informed him that Bobby did not return home last night. Therefore, go out and try to find him alive, if possible. Dave, Chief Galligan's son, also joins Connor to help him in this case, as Dave and Bobby had been close friends during their school days. Elsewhere at the Talbot Wolf Sanctuary, Maggie is seen working, and moments later, she is approached by her uncle Todd, who has been caring for her after her parents go missing. Todd encourages Maggie to find joy in her work. She responds that it has been a whole year since her parents went missing. On this, Todd replies, "I stood by your parents through thick and thin, and I will stand by you as well." Maggie appreciates it with a beautiful smile. Afterwards, she mentions that she stumbled upon an old book of her father in his bag when she was going through her father's belongings, and it is over there in the box. To this, Todd advises her not to trouble herself with this stuff, as it is a waste of time, and leave it where it is and come with me because I have something to show you. Moments after, Connor and Dave arrive at the store to get information about Bobby. Connor explains to Frank, the owner of the store, that they are looking for Bobby Simmons, and that he had been to the store to buy some fishing supplies before his disappearance. To this, Frank reveals that he has not seen him as well ever since. Meanwhile, Sarah Simmons, Bobby's wife, arrives at the store, searching her husband. Detective Ryan tells Sarah that they were actually on their way to visit her to inquire about her husband. He asks Sarah to tell him something very helpful that can help them locate her husband. In response to this, Sarah says she and Bobby had a fallout last night, and later, he stormed off somewhere into the forest to blow off the steam. Afterward, he tells Sarah to calm down and they will give her a call as soon as they find anything. Moments later, Connor and Dave find Bobby's truck parked near the tree line in the woods. They get off their car and approach the truck, but Bobby wasn't inside. After that, they go deep into the forest, where they split up and go down different ways to find Bobby. After covering some distance, Dave comes across the corpse of Bobby, lying on the ground. Immediately, he calls Connor to come over there. Connor spots some hair near the dead body, and notices that one of Bobby's legs is missing, as if it had been torn off. Dave asserts that Bobby didn't die naturally, whereas Connor calls it a murder. Moreover, they spot a giant wolf footprint near the body. Connor suggests to Dave that they should take help of Maggie in this complex case, as she is well informed about wolves' behavior. At the Talbot Wolf Sanctuary, Maggie works on her laptop when she receives a phone call from Ryan Connor, who informs her about another wolf attack. Maggie reveals that wolves have not been seen in the wild in this part of the country for decades. Connor asks her to come over there to examine the body. Therefore, Maggie gets in the truck to leave for the forest, but just then, Todd turns up and asks her where she is going. Maggie responds that someone has been attacked by a wolf near the river in the forest. Therefore, I am going there to investigate it. Todd insists on joining her, but she refuses. So, Todd gives her his gun and asks her to be careful. After that, she leaves. In the woods, Connor and Dave discover several human skeletons scattered around the river. In the next scene, Connor stands outside a hospital, recalling his traumatic military days. Actually, he is haunted by the flashbacks of his fallen comrades. Afterward, he visits Sarah and informs her about her husband's death, causing her to burst into tears. Next, Maggie arrives at the police station to meet Connor, who gives her a warm welcome. Later, in the office, he shows her tufts of hair, damaged skeletons, which he found near Bobby's dead body. Upon examining the evidence, she asserts that the wolves generally don't attack and kill people, not to mention they have all been eradicated. Afterward, Connor takes Maggie to the mortuary to show her Bobby's dead body. Dr. Keeley shows them the teeth marks on Bobby's body and states that this animal didn't kill for food. At the wolf sanctuary, Todd sharpens his dagger. Shortly after, he receives a phone call from Maggie, who informs him that the police found a body that was torn apart. Additionally, one of the legs was missing. It had slashes and teeth marks. I have never seen anything like this. Upon being told this, Todd warns her not to step outside until he gets to her, and after that, he will explain everything to her. At the police station, Connor reveals that the killings take place when the people are on the streets at night. In the next scene, Connor is at the table and begins to be plagued by the flashbacks of the mission that turned his life upside down. Now the scene shifts to the present time, when Connor leaves the table without eating food. Later, he sprints into the forest to get rid of the haunting flashbacks. Next, Dr. Keeley informs Connor that she ran some tests on the skeletal remains and concluded that some of the bones were broken. It indicates a heavy impact. Moreover, she found multiple fractures on the skull. It seems the creature put equal pressure from both sides of the skull to squeeze the victim's head. Later, she warns him to be vigilant, as she has never encountered anything like this before. Next, Todd arrives at the hotel where Maggie waits for him. Maggie says to him, "Reveal the thing that you are holding back from me." Todd remains silent for a while and then places Maggie's father's hunting guide on the table. He reveals that he promised her father not to get her involved in this, but today I am going to break that promise. He says, "This is your father's hunting guide." He reveals that her father was a werewolf hunter, but Maggie takes it with a pinch of salt. Todd discloses that when her parents went missing, they were hunting a werewolf in the woods. "I implored him not to go, but neither of them listened to me and left, leaving you behind in my custody." Afterward, Maggie asks him to tell her everything he knows. To this, Todd says as long as werewolves have been around, there have been people hunting them. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to differentiate werewolves between humans, as they are people too. We kill werewolves only to protect others. They emerge at night, but during the day, they live and act like humans. Moments later, she calls Connor and asks him to come to the hotel, as she has something to show him. Next, Jeremy calls his girlfriend Amanda and starts having a chat with her, but their chat is interrupted by a special news report coming live on TV. Through the news, Chief Galligan issues a curfew for the entire town, as per which no one is allowed to go out at night. Chief Galligan reassures the people of the town that this is being done to keep everyone safe. Therefore, Amanda refuses to go anywhere outside with him, but Jeremy insists on her going into the woods. To which, Amanda agrees. At the hotel, Connor joins Maggie and Todd, who tell him everything about the werewolves. Todd suggests to Connor that they should go out and kill the werewolf before he kills someone else tonight, but Connor says that they will do it next day. Afterward, Connor leaves after assuring them he will be back the next morning, while Todd stays at the hotel to protect Maggie. In the next scene, Connor is sitting on the chair and begins to be troubled by his painful memories. We see that during his last mission, Connor had encountered a werewolf, and ever since, he had been taking medicines to keep himself calm, but today he knocks over the medicine bottles and goes into a basement, crawling. At the same time, we see that Connor had scratched the door like a werewolf, while struggling to crawl into the basement. Down in the basement, Connor tears apart his shirt, screaming, and slams the floor, cracking it. Afterward, he enchains himself. Now the scene shifts to a dense forest, where Jeremy sits near the bonfire, waiting for Amanda. A few moments later, he hears footsteps around him. Therefore, he gets up and goes to trace them, but is startled by the sudden presence of Amanda and her friend. Subsequently, all the three condemn the curfew, enforced by the local government. Moments later, they unlearn the situation and begin to enjoy themselves. Just then, Jeremy spots an entity behind Amanda and her friend. In the twinkling of an eye, both the young women are killed by a werewolf. Witnessing this, Jeremy recoils in fear and starts fleeing. The werewolf also pursues him. Jeremy runs out of the woods and comes into the town and tries to take shelter in the nearby shops. Soon after, the werewolf comes behind, chasing him. He lifts him up and squeezes his head, killing him. Thereafter, he leaves. At night, Maggie dreams of her father, who advises her to return home as soon as possible. Just then, he is also killed by the lurking werewolf, waking Maggie from her sleep. Afterward, she opens the hunting guide of her father and attempts to decipher its cryptic language. At the end of the book, she finds a hidden card, which she inserts into her camera. She discovers pictures, captured by her father while pursuing a werewolf. To her amazement, she finds a picture of Connor. She immediately approaches Todd and questions him about why her father had a picture of Connor in Alaska. Todd explains that when he talked to her father last time, he mentioned tracking a werewolf lead, as he was suspicious of a good-looking young man in the town, having a scar on his shoulder. Maggie reveals that Connor always rubs his shoulder as if it were injured. Todd explains to her that he had been suspicious of Connor since their first meeting. Later, he advises her to stay inside the room and lock the door securely until daybreak. So, Maggie returns to her room. A few moments later, Todd leaves the hotel without informing Maggie. He heads straight into the forest in search of Connor, the werewolf. Todd begins to look for clues on the ground, aware of the fact that Connor is secretly moving towards him. He pulls out his dagger and charges at Connor, but is savagely killed instead. Maggie knocks on Todd's room, but it is not answered by Todd, as he has already gone. At the police station, Connor looks uptight while seeing Bobby's pictures. Chief Galligan shows up there and tells him that the police have found another dead body in the town. After Connor's departure from the police station, Maggie arrives there to meet him, but another cop informs her that Connor has already left. So, Maggie comes out of the police station and contacts Todd, but he doesn't answer her call, as he is no more in this world. Next, Connor checks on the dead body of Jeremy and acts like he doesn't know anything. He finds blood spots on the street and following them continuously, he heads into the forest. There, he finds the corpses of Amanda and her friend, lying next to each other. Moments later, Maggie also arrives there by pointing her gun at Connor. She says to him, "It was you who has been killing people." To this, Connor responds that he is not what she thinks of him. At the same time, another Connor arrives at the police station in torn clothes while his hands are smeared with blood. He asks David where his brother is. Meaning, he asks about Ryan Connor, his twin brother. Here comes the real twist in the movie. Actually, Ryan Connor has one more brother, and his name is Ryan Matthew, who has been in the US Army, and he is the real werewolf, and it is he who has been killing people. On the other hand, Ryan Connor explains to Maggie that whatever she is thinking about him isn't true. Maggie bursts into tears and says to Ryan, "You have killed my parents," but Ryan tries to pacify her anyway. At the police station, Matthew has held David hostage and reveals that he has done everything to get rid of it, however it stays with him everywhere. Shortly after, one of the cops fires a bullet at Matthew, causing him to die. At the cemetery, Ryan Matthew is given a guard of honor for the service he offered for his country. 3 months later, Maggie still tries to make out the cryptic language of her father's hunting guide. Moments later, a letter is received by her through a mailman. She opens it and sees that Todd has sent her an amount of $17,000, meaning he is still alive. Just then, she receives a phone call from Ryan Connor, who informs her about a killing in the town by a werewolf. So, Maggie leaves without reading the letter completely, as there was a warning on the other side of the letter. In the closing scene of the movie, a man is seen stopping a car to take a lift, but he is no other than Todd, who is still alive, but now, he has become a werewolf, as the man killed recently in the town was killed by him, and with this scene, this movie comes to an end.